Okay, guys, this is going to be a comparison video between two types of squats. I'm getting a lot of emails from people who are having really severe lower back pain when they're doing squats because the muscles in their lower back are getting so pumped up from the overactivation. And so what I want to do is show you the typical way people are taught to do squats. This is the way that most personal trainers have learned in their certifications, and this is a way that they are taught to teach it at most commercial gyms. You're going to find that on the right hand side. On the left hand side, you're going to see a variation of that squat. It's the high bar squat. You can perform it low bar as well, but the difference here you will see is that rather than breaking at the hips first, you're breaking at the knees and allowing the knees to travel towards the toe, which is supposed to be a big no-no when doing things the conventional way. So first, let's do some live video of both squats in full speed. Okay, so to the naked eye, I'm going to rewind this a little bit. To the naked eye, uh, there might not seem to be much difference between these squats, but I'm going to show you the difference, and I'm going to show you why those of you who are having that lower back pain and feeling your muscles in your lower back being completely pumped up are probably experiencing that pain. So first I'm going to go over the most common type of squat that people are taught, and this is going to be here on the right hand side. First things first, in the stance you're going to notice that the toes are supposed to be pointed straight forward. So the toes should be straight forward and your feet should be parallel in this form of the squat. The next thing you're going to notice is that the first movement is to push your hips back. And as you are pushing your hips back, you're going to get them back as far as possible. The reason for this is because you don't want your knees traveling towards your toes. And if you watch, you can see that the knees do not travel. Whoops, I'll go back a little bit more. If you watch, you can see the knees do not travel towards the toes at all because we are pushing our hips back the whole time. Okay. Let me clear that out. On the other side, oh, and let me just go over another feature of this. You're supposed to try to keep your chest up as much as possible, and you can see I'm trying to make an effort to do that. And you are not supposed to look up. You're supposed to have your gaze forward. On the other side, I'm going to show you a very different sequence of events here. So the first thing I'm doing here is breaking my knees, and then my hips come down. Right? And as I'm breaking my knees, I'm pushing my knees outward, right? So the knees are going out that way. And you can see that as they get wider as I go lower. My chest is up. Here I'm doing a high bar version of the squat. In addition to that, in my stance at the beginning, my toes were pointed slightly outward. Right? So my toes are pointed slightly outward, and as my knees are coming out, they're tracking toward my toes. Okay, so let's go over why the version on the left, which is shunned by most popular trainers and by most popular training or personal training certifications, is probably a little bit safer for you if you are experiencing lower back pain, even though your knees are traveling towards your toes. So let's go over this real quick. I'm going to go back to the top, and I'm going to go back to the top here. So notice this on the right hand side. Your first movement is pushing your hips back. What happens immediately? As we're pushing your hips back, your chest actually starts to dip forward, right? So right here already we're experiencing some isolation of the lower back muscles, which is going to cause a pump and is going to cause some discomfort. On the other side, my chest is not dipping forward at all. In fact, the entirety of the frontal face of my chest is pointed forward. Now, on this side, even though on the right hand side, even though I'm trying to keep my chest up as high as possible, the very act of pushing my hips back is forcing my chest to go down. And over here at this position, which is one of the most critical spots, the most stressful spots for the lower back and the other side of the squat, you're not even getting a partial load on your lower back. All of the load is on your quadriceps and on your glutes. So let's keep going down. I'm going to clear this out. So as we go down, still on this side you see the chest is up and there's very little load on the lower back here, and most of the load is on the glutes and on the quadriceps. On the other hand, over here, let's look at this. Look at the load on the lower back and look at the lack of load on the glutes and on the quadriceps. And look at where my chest is. It's almost pointed straight down because I'm pushing my hips way back and I'm almost bent forward. In fact, I'll run a test here for you. Let's see what the angles are at the bottom between my torso and my leg. So over here, we're going to go there, and then I'm going to go, whoops, make sure that's right. Sorry, my thumbs and fingers get in the way. So 52 degrees. Let's go here. About a 10, whoop, that's even generous. Hold on a second. It's a pretty big difference in the angle there. There is tons of pressure here because of this angle going on the lower back, while there's very little pressure here. Now let's look at an even more critical point in the squat as we're coming up. So we're going to come up there. We're going to come up here. Right? So we're right up at about the same position. Let's look at this. Let's see what that angle is. So over here, okay, and let's look at here. Make sure my lines are all right. Even here, at one of the most critical points in the squat, you are still getting pressure as you are coming up. So that means on this side, this lower back area is facing a constant pump, constant tension. This is basically an isolation movement for your lower back. And so those of you who are experiencing pain, this is why. On this side, we see very little pressure. Now, one more point to contend with, and people say that with your knees traveling toward your toes, that this is a very dangerous thing because the knees are traveling outward toward the toes. And on this side, whoops, we'll go back a little bit. On this side, this is much safer for your knees because your knees are not traveling toward your toes. Well, let's check this out. For one, I have to tell you that I have a reconstructed ACL in my right leg. I also have had 3 arthroscopic surgeries on my right knee, and in addition to that, I have a reconstructed right ankle on my right side. So if anybody should be bothered by performing the squat on the left-hand side, it should be me, and I can tell you that I have experienced much less knee pain, in fact, by performing the squat on the left-hand side than I did back when I was pushing my hips back and performing the squat on the right-hand side. So that being said, let's check out these angles here. Now, while the angles might be a little bit more severe from the side on this squat, let's check this out here. We've got about 65%. Let's see where that is. So there's about a 10-degree difference, but let's think about this for a second. My knees on this side are pushed outward, right? And what that means is that my knees are tracking toward my toes. If I were to try and keep my knees in and my knees weren't tracking toward my toes, then there would be a problem. But because my knees are tracking toward my toes, they're tracking properly. And so there's much less stress going on there. On the other hand, on this side, with the knee over here, you're having a lot of the same exact types of pressure because the knees are tracking toward the toes in the first place. So you're still getting tons of pressure over here on the knee and tons of pressure over here on the knee. That comes with doing a squat. But to say that this squat over here is much more severe on the knee, that's a pretty big fallacy because you're still putting the same exact shear pressures on the knee by driving through the heel. And you can even see that despite the fact that I'm not trying to push my knees out toward my toes, I'm still getting a good bit of movement there. So coming from somebody who's had 3 surgeries on my right knee and feeling fantastic doing the squat on the left-hand side, where I break at the knees first, I would choose this squat any day and twice on Monday. Not to sound like a 7-year-old man, but so this video is getting a little bit long, but again, I just want to emphasize to you, if you are having lower back pressure and tons of lower back pain, this is something that almost got me to quit squatting a few years ago until I redesigned my squat. Definitely think about trying to choose this one here on the left and fixing your squat. If you have any questions for me, just hit me up at gettingshredded@gmail.com. I'm always looking for new clients, and if you think you can benefit from personal analysis on my part, then please hit me up. Talk to you soon.